Soul
You know, there's a secret in your birthday to courage, and courage leads to love. Are you ready to find out the truth? I have the answer. You too can find the truth if you dare. All that and more at secretsofbirthdays.com. Hello, my fellow soul gardeners, and welcome now to Astro 102. We are discussing how to read charts, and we're currently on the topic of aspects. Now, last episode, or last week, what we talked about were trines and squares and oppositions. Oh my! But we didn't talk about conjunctions. And I waited to talk about conjunctions just because conjunctions are a little tricky. They seem simple, but they actually have a lot of understanding that needs to go into them. A conjunction basically is when two planets are on top of each other, okay? That's a conjunction. Now, the first thing you need to understand is what qualifies a conjunction. We have something called orbs in astrology. An orb is a sphere of influence around the planet. Now, astrologers have different opinions on how much of an orb a planet has or doesn't have, and that's really based on their empirical evidence of working with their clients. I'm very conservative with my orbs, okay? And an orb is determined by degree. So, for instance, I work with a 5-degree orb all the time. Sometimes astrologers work with a 7-degree orb. Now what that means is for 5 degrees on this way and 5 degrees on that way, it's still within influence, okay? Now orbs also count within trines and also with squares and the other aspects as well. So for instance, if a planet is, 20 degrees on one side and they're 21 degrees on the other side for an opposition, 21 is within 5 degrees in one direction, okay? Or it could be 19 degrees too, right? Or it could be 15 degrees. From 15 to 20, it's within a 5-degree orb. So it's still an opposition because they are influencing one another. Now, a direct conjunction or a direct opposition is when they're at the exact same degree. So if it's a 20 degrees on one sign and 20 degrees in the opposite sign, that's a direct, okay? So that's a very powerful, very connected opposition in that case, okay? The same thing goes true with conjunctions, okay? So if you have a sun at 0 degrees or a sun at 1 degree, let's say, and Mercury, let's say, which is a common conjunction. Mercury and the sun are always hanging out by each other. So those are planets that you often find in a conjunction. So the sun is like, let's say, 1 degree and Mercury is at 6 degrees. They're technically still conjuncting if you're working within a 5-degree orb. Some astrologers work with varying orbs, and they vary it based on how fast the planet moves. So for instance, with Mercury, some astrologers will work within a 3-degree orb. So the sun will be at 1 degree, and they'll go only to 4 degrees, and 5 they'll say, no, that doesn't count, it's too far away. I'm not that way. I kind of just keep it conservative and work within a 5-degree orb at all times. The truth of the matter is as the planets get closer to one another, they become more intensely connected. And that's what a conjunction is a connection to the energy. So for me, I work with 5 with all the planets. Now sometimes people work the greater orb with the outer planets, like Pluto. I know a lot of astrologers that work between a 7 and 10 degree orb with Pluto. Well, 10 degrees with Pluto is like 6 years, okay? So technically you'd be conjuncting for 6 years. I don't really go with that. I actually think 5 degrees is ample. And the reason why they say that is because the slow-moving planets, actually you start seeing influence farther away. And that's true, you do start seeing influence, especially when you're dealing with transits in the moment, when you're looking at the natal chart versus where planets are today. So overall, I work with a 5-degree orb. Do your research, look at your clients, look at your own chart, see when you start seeing the effects of the transits and determine your orb for yourself. For conjunctions though, 0 to 5 is good. Like I said, some astrologers go 0 to 3 with Mercury because it moves so fast in Mercury's case. All right, now let's talk about what a conjunction actually is. A conjunction is when the two planetary influences are on top of one another. As a result, they are working harmlessly together. Harmlessly, okay? It doesn't really create any harm. They come together in vibration. And I look at this as two things, really. There's a good side to it and there's a challenging side to it. The good side is these two planets are working together. So these two states of your awareness are working together, right? So let's use the Sun-Mercury conjunction as an example. The sun is our overall awareness. That's reality. The sun is reality. Mercury is our mind. So if the sun and Mercury are working together, you have a soul there that has that basically can have their awareness and their mind work as one. So they can think very fast on their feet. These are fast thinkers, these are fast communicators, these are fast moving minds depending on what sign the Sun-Mercury conjunction is. The Sun-Mercury conjunctions in Gemini, man, these people may even have ADD. They work so fast, they think so fast. Might be hard to focus at first at a young age, but then once they learn to really focus those energies together, they can focus in a super hyper way, okay? Now the challenging side of the Sun and Mercury together, or any two planets together, is it's difficult to distinguish the two vibrations, okay? So sometimes with Sun-Mercury conjunction, people think they are their thoughts. Well, that's not the case. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are the readout. It's the computer readout. It's the dashboard in the car. It's not who you are. It's not the awareness that you have. So when they mix together these two vibrations, they can't separate the two vibrations. So if they do have issues with thinking or issues with talking, they think that's who they are. They're a problem. So the problem with conjunctions is you can't segregate the energy. Now there's another type of conjunction called a stellium. And a stellium is when two or more planets conjunct to one another. So now you might have the Sun, Mercury, and Venus, okay? That means that the awareness, the intellect, and the creativity are all working as one. The plus side is this person can spit out some genius stuff, like maybe some genius writing, some genius public speaking. Creativity, intellect, and awareness are all working together, okay? But when that individual is trying to understand the difference between who they are, what they think, and their feminine side, it's difficult to separate them. Sometimes it's your feminine side that's challenging you, but you're letting that pollute your mind and pollute your awareness, right? Or maybe your awareness is challenged, you're feeling kind of funky, and so you don't feel very feminine or creative, or you feel like your mind's in a rut. When really Mercury and Venus are just fine, it's your awareness that's not working. So stelliums can work for you, stelliums can work against you. It kind of depends. And I also must bring up the idea of conjunction and stelliums in other major aspects. So, for instance, let's talk about an opposition. That's so simple. Let's say we have Saturn on one side at 10 degrees, and then we have a stellium on the other, the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. So that's a conjunction that's opposing one planet. And that can be looked at literally as weight. That person's awareness, their intellect, and their creativity is all weighing on one side. So awareness, intellect, and creativity is all weighing against Saturn, which is responsibility. And when you have those types of situations where you have one planet and three at the top or something like that, usually that smaller planet is the one that ends up controlling the mass because it's like a pendulum. And so it pulls the mass sort of in different places. That's how I look at it. So you might think that the three planets are more powerful than the one, but because they can't separate from one another and you can't separate your awareness from the three of them, usually that other planet, that smaller one, that single one, is really where the point of control is because you can focus on control, you can focus on just the Saturn, the other three are hard to pull apart. So conjunctions and stelliums, oh my. Go into your chart and take a look at where you have conjunctions and stelliums and ask yourself, especially in the conjunctions, can you separate the energies or not? Yes, it makes you very talented when you want to focus that into a product, but also it can be confusing when you're trying to get to the bottom of a challenge. Okay, that wraps up this 102, but I'm back next week. Live, love, be. You know, there's a secret in your birthday to courage, and courage leads to love. Are you ready to find out the truth? I have the answer. You too can find the truth if you dare. All that and more at secretsofbirthdays.com. So God.